Hello, and my name is Pete Rushmer, and I'm your host today of A Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success, or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we are here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is.
How we doing, mate?
I'm very well, Pete.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you, here's trivia number one then, Dan, before we introduce you to everyone. Have you listened to one of my podcasts before?
I have.
Yes!
I have, mate. I have. Of course I have.
One download, boom, he's lying. He's fucking
I'm a
lying.
subscriber.
It's better. It's better than James's and Colin's, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're going to hate that. Yeah. I've only wondered. I'll put you on the spot there.
They asked me the same question, mate. I'll tell them they're the best. Although I've not been on theirs. So.
No, to be fair, exactly. So you invited on mine first. So that's all that matters, right?
That's it, mate. We're best mates now.
They're going to have to get their own back. They're going to have to get their own back on me now. Invite you on and say that theirs is better. So, mate, tell me. Tell the listeners, Dan, a bit about who you are, mate. Obviously, I've referred to you as Dan. You're Dan Griffiths. I know you as Dan anyway. I've never actually asked if it's okay to call you Dan rather than Daniel.
I am referred to as Dan, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, cool. So, Dan, quick intro for the listeners that I know of Dan. I know Dan because he works with us on our ISO consultancy work with our clients and does some health and safety consultancy work as well. And the clients that I put Dan into absolutely fucking love him. He's helped at least 2 or 3 of our clients, I think, already, and we're on the hunt for more who are interested in ISO. So we're going to be talking about that a bit today and just getting people to understand the new focus for this series of the podcast is around the safer, greener, greater concept, which really nicely aligns with ISO, particularly 9001, 14001 and 45001. So, but Dan, we were introduced, I think, originally by Colin, actually, from the interesting or not so interesting health and safety podcast. I shouldn't say that, should I? He's going to absolutely kill me. He'd have to listen to find out, to be fair. But yeah, we're first introduced by Colin, and we've not looked back since, mate. So yeah, if you can just give the listeners a bit of background, because you were like served in the military originally, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So quick intro from myself. So
I'm just going to turn the aircon up, mate, because I'm getting hot. Go for it, mate. Go on.
Yeah, quick intro from myself. So I run a company called Principal Compliance, which is a health and safety and environment and quality consultancy. Okay, specialising in working with construction companies and construction related fields. Okay, pretty much what we do is CDM, general health and safety, and ISO standards. Okay, for which we're going to talk about today. Prior to my health and safety career, I was in the military for 8 years as a Royal Engineer. So
nice.
Left school, joined the military.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. So tell me a bit about that then. So how was that? How was your 8 years doing that? And do you think it's helped set you up for what you do now? Because I see a few ex-military people. I don't know what the right terminology is. Haven't been a civvy all my life. Stupid civvy. What's the right terminology? Should I say veterans? Are you allowed to be? Are you a veteran? I suppose. Yeah.
Right. Ex-military veteran. Right. Okay. So I see a few of them saying that it's sort of helped serve their careers now. Has it helped?
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit of a saying where they think there's more guys out in health and safety than there is actually in the Royal Engineers. It's kind of just a natural progression. You know, I think a lot of infantry guys tend to go into close protection and security. Engineers tend to, we've got a bit more brain, so we're going into sort of health and
that sounds
safety
like fine fucking talk, that does.
And auditing and stuff. Yeah, it is fine talk.
We won't even start on any of the other services, yeah?
No, exactly. But yeah, there's, it's a natural progression. and they really promote it through the resettlement package that you get. So you get 12 months resettlement, and you can sort of get into that and various other things around sort of safety, quality, and risk management of some sort.
How did you find that sort of transition? So did you go straight into the military from school? Is that sort of what you did? Or did you do A levels and stuff? Or
so I went to college and I was a carpenter joiner.
Okay.
Yeah, worked for a shop fitting company. But my intention was to join the military all along. I just wanted to go to college. I was kind of pushed in to go to college for a bit first and get a job. And I really, really appreciate my mum for making me do that, because it really helped me transition back into civil life, because obviously you have had a job interview and stuff like that, whereas, you know, if you join at 16 or 17, you haven't done that, so it's a little bit more scary. But yeah, and, you know, transitioning out the military was just, you know, seamless, you know. But I think you've got to be self-motivated, because if you're not, you know, they're not going to sort of set you up for life. They're just going to put things on your path, and you've got to choose your own journey. So.
You got to grasp the nettle and take the opportunity.
Exactly that. Exactly.
Nice, mate. Nice. And how was that sort of like transition out like for you from, you know, did you sort of settle in? I've had a bit of experience when I used to work for Volvo back in the day. We used to have a lot of ex-engineers type stuff who'd have been working on goods vehicles, for example, or some of the heavy equipment within the army, and they'd come and sort of apply for work with us and that. To be honest, I had a bit of experience of them struggling a little bit on the sort of transition over. How was that?
Mine was all right, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys and girls, they do struggle. Yeah. I think I was, I think it all just comes to being self-motivated and, you know, just what I was saying earlier about I had a job before I joined the army, and I knew what it was like going to get a job and stuff like that. And as long as you get a decent job, it keeps you busy, you want to progress through that and stuff like that, you know, your brain's, you know, focused on that. It's when I think when people lose purpose and they lose sight of what they do, and they end up in a mundane job, when problems can sort of arise. And they do. It's happened with my friends, a lot of my friends actually. But yeah, mine was fine. Mine was really
sweet.
Good.
No, sweet, man, sweet. So how long have you been out now? How long have you been out? You're 8 years in. I'm just trying to age you now.
I reckon 8 years out. Yeah, 8 years out now.
So I reckon you're the same age as me. So I'm 36.
No.
You're younger than that.
It's the army age, isn't it?
So 18. I'm putting you as...
I'm 33.
You're 33. Oh, yeah, no, because it's 16. And my maths is awful, isn't it? You went in at 18, done 8 years, 26. Yeah, and then you're out now, so 33. Yeah, younger than me. Fair play, mate. No, good for you, man. Okay, cool. So you're looking good on it, mate. Anyway, I was thinking you may be older than you looked then for a minute, but obviously not. Obviously not. Guys, I know you can't see him on the video, but Dan is the cutting edge of handsome. He looks like late 20s, most, not even early 30s. I'm not even hitting on him either, because he's actually. So you've been doing a bit of work with one of our clients today, and just for the listeners, bit of fun here. So we're at Flagship HQ. Having an interview. I thought I'd save him from the hotel he's managed to book in Peterborough, which is on Lincoln Road, which is like literally like, you know, prostitute central. So I think he's absolutely stitched himself there. I don't know where you eating tonight. Are you planning to eat?
I'm not going to venture out now, you said that.
I wouldn't, mate.
What I was going to do, I was just going to stand on the road and just, you know, wave someone down and ask, you know, where's the best place to eat, you know, and see where it goes.
Definitely what you should do.
I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably, to be fair, there's a Turkish restaurant on the site.
Nice.
Next door.
Is there?
It's probably part of it, and it looks appetising.
Nice.
And they bring you breakfast in bed and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, mate. That is spot on, mate. Turkish breakfast in bed.
I know, yeah. What's that about? It's crazy.
I'll tell you what, mate. Just make sure tomorrow that you've got maybe something to clog you back up again if you need it. Turkish restaurant on Lincoln Road. No, I think you'll be fine, mate. I think you'll be fine. It'll be good as gold, mate. It'll be good as gold. I probably shouldn't say these things. I'm going to end up getting my house shot down. No one knows where I live, so that's fine. And those people probably won't be listening to this podcast, so that's cool. All right, then. So we've chatted some shit for a bit, so that's cool. Let's have a bit of a chat about ISO standards, about health and safety. So what sort of come first for you then? So was it the health and safety, and then you kind of had this demand from clients for the ISO standards, which was something that you sort of then pushed into, or?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Yeah, kind of. So originally it was, generalising in health and safety and CDM, so construction design and management. It was just a customer requirement, I did it when I was a full-time employee before I run a consultancy. I did it for a company I worked for. So I actually, I knew how to do it. Mm-hmm. But that's not what I set out to do in the consultancy. And then, one day your client asks, this is what we want to do. And then it snowballs from there. And then, I actually really like doing it. And I can see the benefits that it gives to companies. And it opens doors for them, and so that's kind of the progression that happened.
Sweet. So with the realignment of the podcast, so we've been doing a lot. To give you a bit of background, because I know you're an avid listener, right? We've been doing a lot around like transport and that kind of stuff. So the listeners will still be largely from the transport background, but what we're looking to do is refocus the podcast towards like the Flagship Partners overall focus, which is around. Mate, you're fine, just have a drink, you're all good, mate. Dan keeps going for his water, and then I ask him a question, it's almost like I'm literally stitching him up. He's just like wanting to have a drink, and then I just keep...
I'm trying to do it quietly as well.
Yeah, no, it's fine, mate, don't worry about that. We like to keep it raw around here, it's fine. It's just, the worst ones, like I've had people on and like clicking pens and stuff, and I'm like...
Breathing's the worst.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm glad I quit smoking, because podcasts, it's one of them, innit? Like, so yeah, I've got to try and keep the breathing out. But hopefully Harry does a good job on editing it. Anyway, I keep getting digressed. I'll keep digressing. So ISO standards, which is sort of what I'm keen to talk about. Because we focus on 9001, which is the quality, 14001, which is the environment, and then the 45001, which is the health and safety standard. So they really nicely align with this vision of Flagship, who we look to make our clients safer, greener and greater. So what I'd like to do initially during this podcast is just to sort of first look at, so what are the ISO standards and what benefits do clients get from having it? And then I just want to have a look at sort of the different, what impact does it have on the business, and how, businesses who properly embrace it, what sort of benefits are they seeing from it? And then just have a look around, so how does the ISO make operators, make customers, make clients and businesses safer? How does it make them greener? And then how's it improving them overall? Because I think it's, that's sort of what it's aiming to do. So just in layman's terms, what are the ISO standards in sort of Dan's words, really?
Yeah. And I think layman's terms is really important with ISO, because one of the biggest problems is this ISO talk and translating it from this and I don't know if any one of your listeners has actually read a standard or whatever, but
I don't think they've got far enough through it without falling asleep.
Exactly that, yeah, and it's put in some really generic terms. So in layman's terms, ISO standards are the International Organisation of Standardisation, okay, and it is a bit back to front, okay, so that's IOS and not ISO, but there's a language element there. And a translation element, but it is International Organisation for Standardisation. And in real layman's terms, all it is a committee of specialists and experts and thinkers get together and they create these standards, okay? A standardised way of doing one thing, okay? And what we'll talk about today is quality, environmental and health and safety. Okay, there are hundreds and hundreds of standards.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you do any others? Or are those the sort of the main three?
Yeah, so I do a bit of helping construction firms and other firms become carbon neutral. Mm-hmm. So that's another ISO standard. And then there's a new ISO standard coming out for the built environment and construction sector, ISO 99001. So that's coming out. It's currently being drafted at the moment in its final stages. So we'll be looking at, driving that forward for construction firms, because it is very specific, and we will touch on some of the problems with 9001 and the others about how generic they are. But real layman's terms, the ISO standards are just a best practice way of managing quality and managing safety and managing environmental in your business. That's probably the best way of just putting it, because that's all you really need to know. It isn't the best way, it isn't the ultimate way, it is a standardised way of doing something that experts have come to the conclusion is a good way of doing it. Okay, and it's a baseline. It's a baseline to start off with. Once you implement it, it can grow and you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay, cool. And I think, so I guess the next question is that's what they are. So why do we get clients inquire about getting them? What do you think the reason is behind that?
So the main reason really is, I think it's generally a contractual obligation, a compliance obligation. So it could be the company is tendering to get on a contract. It could be they're branching into a new market and they're kind of preempting that they're going to have a quality management system. So most of the time they've got an obligation to hold it. Whatever standard. Most of the time it's 9001 and 14001. I haven't seen many contracts specifying having 45001, which is the health and safety one. It is newer. It is
because it was 18,000.
It was 18,001, and it changed in 2018. So there's that. There's a contractual obligation. There's also if the business is at a point where potentially it might. The directors want to sell the business and they want to exit. They want to formalise how they do everything, okay? Because no one's going to buy a business where everything's in everyone's heads, okay? So they really want to sort of structure the business, put in some good, best practice ways of doing stuff, operationalising everything. So that's the second reason, and the third reason is. They've heard of ISO 9001 and they've heard that it's a quality management system or a safety management system, and they just want to do it. Okay, I don't come across many people that just want to do that. It's more or less a compliance obligation.
I've definitely seen sort of two reasons. I know Flagship, for example, you helped us get our 9001 quality management standard, which was a requirement for us to become earned recognition auditors for the DVSA. That was part of their requirement to demonstrate that we've got that quality management system in place. But actually, do you know what? I felt a really proud moment when that happened. That my little business, 4 years old, we'd sort of reached this international standard of quality, and I think that means something. It feels like it means something. I think we've spoken about it before. There's companies that will just do this stuff as a tick box exercise to achieve, a contract, for example. But actually, I think embracing the process into the business leads on to that second element, which is around driving value. So one of our clients who we've both worked with, and it's fantastic company, fantastic business. They work in sort of office sort of refits and that kind of stuff, don't they? They're fantastic guys. And, I know that they were approaching it from the point of view of the business is worth a certain value, right? So when you value businesses and you look at how you value that, if you were to sell it or if you were to raise finance or whatever it is you want to do to grow or to move on, essentially that business, depending on the quality of the systems and the processes and how easily it is to continue getting the results you're getting, people look at potentially multiples of profit or multiples of turnover or whatever it may be. Now, having those ISO standards locked down and embedded in the business will literally put that multiplier up. So whatever your profit you're getting, without them, it might be 2 times. You know, you might be in an industry where you're looking at 2 times multiple of profit. But having the ISO standards in to go, do you know what? Actually, we're ticking all of these, and actually we can win big contracts and things like that because we've got those standards. The benefit to the business from a valuation point of view, I think, is really big. And exactly. I think particularly transport operators listening, I think if you think about that as a valuation, as a tool for raising finance or as a tool for selling on, you know, I work with so many transport operators where things that are done around here are just, that's the way they're done around here, and there's no documented process, there's no policy, there's no procedure, there's no, you know, no standardisation at all. And then the other issue they've got, which again is like another knock-on benefit, is like if you've got these standards and you've got these ways of working, then, you know, it's so easy if people transition in and out of the business that actually there's like a sort of recognised way of doing things.
Yeah.
Whereas I find particularly sort of small to medium-sized businesses just will really suffer when they have the odd person who leaves the business. Big problem for them.
Exactly that. And I mean, a key part of it is managing risk and formalising that knowledge of what people have, because like you say, you have those you know, the person in the business that he's got so much up in his head, he's been there for ages, that if he left, you know, it's going to be bad. You're not going to be able to replace him. You're not even going to be able to train someone up to replace him.
You ain't got that knowledge.
You haven't got it.
Yeah.
And part of implementing a quality management system is putting it on paper and really standardising the way you do things in your business, from a sales point of view, even handling inquiries, all the way through to delivering your service, whatever service you do, and then, you know, looking after your customers after, and everything in between.
I think the other thing, like you say, is if it's embraced, it makes businesses better. It does make them better, and I think it makes leaders better, because it makes them stop, and from a, you know, there's certain requirements from a senior leadership point of view for senior leaders to sit down and go, actually, how are we rolling these standards out across the business, and setting objectives and setting goals, which often aren't formalised in the business setting. You know, particularly with, you know, privately owned businesses, sometimes it's literally, you know, it's on a need to know basis, right? And the director shares with staff what they need to know, but it's a really nice way of sort of consolidating the team around a shared set of objectives and goals. Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're proud to sponsor a Half Dozen Things podcast. Flagship Partners help their clients become safer, greener and greater through a range of consultancy and training services. We offer audits through to risk assessments, contracts through to support with managing your culture, all the way from mandatory training through to management training as well. So if you need any support, please do get in touch with Flagship Partners today. Would you agree with that?
I do agree. Yeah, I think if you look at it, take a step back, and I know not a lot of people know what sort of 9001's about, but if you've got a big group of people coming together and creating a standard way to running a business that can fit into small to medium sized and large businesses as well, you know, all sorts of businesses, why wouldn't you do it? Why would you not want to put in, like you say, objectives, have a business plan, manage the risks in your business? Why would you not want to train your people? Why would you not want a customer focus and a quality policy or a safety policy? You know, you've got laws to comply with, or you need to know the laws, you know. You don't need to know absolutely everything, and it doesn't have to be complex at all. It can be really simple, and it doesn't have to be pages and pages of documents and, you know, all these folders and stuff. I like to keep, be quite lean with the paperwork. Why wouldn't you want to do that? You know, at the end of the day, the standards all, no matter what standard it is, it all promotes continual improvement. Now, if you're not in business to continually improve and grow, why are you in business? Because you're not serving anyone.
No, totally agree, mate. And I think, for listeners who are thinking about, the old days where someone like Dan or I would come into your business and would create you lever arch folder upon lever arch folder of documents which just sit on the foot court. They sit on the shelf and get dusty, and then you drag them out and, sort of blow the dust off them literally on an annual basis just before audit. that isn't sort of what we're talking about. I think, you know, Dan's just alluded to it there about the principle is actually to keep it as simple as possible and align it as much as possible with your business, isn't it? And make it digital.
Exactly that. Exactly, mate. Yeah, it's it may seem complex, but to be honest, most businesses are doing, you know, 3/4 of what's required anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly not about a consultant walking in, you know, and dishing out the paperwork.
Yeah. No, got you. Okay, so I guess like the next question, we've sort of made a nice clear sort of what and maybe why. So what is the ISO standards and why would you have them? So I guess the next question is like how. So client rings up today, they're inquiring and they want to, you know, find out more about the ISO standards, or they want to know what's going to be involved or what's work's involved from. How do they sort of find out a bit more about that, or what would you know, what sort of steps would you follow?
I think the first thing, and what I do with my clients as well, is have an open and honest conversation about what are you trying to achieve and why are you doing it. Because like we say, like we're going back to this paperwork thing, it's not about giving out the paperwork and you getting certified anymore. Okay, there's a lot more to it. You know, the business owner and his staff and managers are all going to have to be involved at certain points. So it's all about having that conversation early on. What do you want to achieve? What you're aiming for? And explaining to them that it's going to have to be maintained. You know, there is going to be time and effort from them, no matter, you know, how much they want the consultant to do it. You know, they're going to have to do some at some point. So that's really step one, having that conversation, explaining that, you know, it's going to take X amount of time to sort of implement the system based on what they've got in place. Okay. We also explain sort of what's involved with maintenance as well, and we'll touch on what's actually involved in the quality management system. But there's an element of internal audits and management reviews, and then there's stage 1 audit, stage 2 audits from the certification body. There's all these different touch points that are within the cycle of certification. So once you're certified, it doesn't just stop there. It continues. You've got surveillance audits for the next 2 years, and then on the 3rd year you've got recertification. Okay, and there's days where you're probably going to need support. Now, it's going to look different for every different business because of the size. You know, a smaller business is going to, you know, probably need a consultant's help a little bit more. But, you know, the bigger the business, they may have a quality manager or a safety advisor internally, so they can pick up a little bit of it, and over time they're taking on more and more because they're being trained by us to implement and maintain the system. So it's all about having that conversation to start with. I mean, there is a lot to it. But being upfront is probably the best way, because the last thing the client wants is to think that it's a paperwork exercise, and after he's been certified, that's it. He never has to think about it again, which is, you know, false. There are consultants out there that do sort of spin that story.
Yeah, because they just want to charge the project cost and then leave them to it.
Exactly.
And then they can charge a project cost when they come back to them a year later going, oh, we haven't done any of it.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah. So it's all about just being upfront and honest, and, you know, that's...
picking the right consultant, guys.
Yeah, exactly that, exactly.
Tell me a horror story. Tell me a horror story about ISO consultants.
I'm not sure what's worse. Like, there's some consultants and there's auditors. I've got horror stories of both.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the consultants, I mean, they're just, you know, you hear stories when you're picking up a bad project. So the client comes to you. They've been basically strung along for, you know, 6 months to 12 months, and you see what the consultants done, and you know that they've been charging a extortionate day rate, and you see what they've implemented and put in place, and you know they have literally copied a spreadsheet from their previous project and dumped it on that, and has taken 5 minutes, and they've probably charged, hundreds, thousands probably. And that's not the worst bit. The worst bit is how much time they waste for directors. Directors are busy people, and they're just wasting their time booking meetings with them, pointless meetings to have chats, and just wasting hours and hours and hours. And it happens all the time.
Just paying lip service to it to show demonstrate that they're doing something and not really actually delivering any value.
Yeah, exactly that. And then when you see these systems, it's just terrible. It's just, and I really feel because the business owners and directors who have appointed the consultants, they don't know any better. No. They think that is how it's done. Yeah. And they're probably, I don't know what they're thinking, but I know they're not happy.
Yeah. And that's the challenge. Is I think the issue that a director's going to have is that it probably takes about 6 months to realise that you've got a shit consultant, doesn't it? Yeah. And you're already potentially thousands of pounds in, having had 6 months, and then you think, do I cut my losses or not? And I think the issue you got is that it's very. I think the big warning I'd say is it's fine. You listen to Dan and I talking about it, and if you want to use us, that's fantastic. We'll welcome the business, but obviously you might want to choose to use someone else or someone that you know. But there is people out there who will literally, they're going to charge a lot of money and potentially just copy and paste old documents that they've used previously that are just really generic and not tailor them to the business, and that isn't really adding any value. They're not really giving you something that's operational. I think it's much more important to take the approach we take, which is around trying to embed a new way of working into a business.
Yeah, I think if you're a director or a manager, senior manager, and you're approaching a ISO consultant to implement a standard, and you're having that initial conversation, and you're not coming away from having that conversation and going, do you know what? He's explained that so simple. I know exactly what he's going to do over the next six months, 3 months, or whatever it is. I've got confidence in, he's really shown me the journey and the deliverables and stuff. If you're not having that conversation, coming away feeling like that, then don't go with that consultant.
I think the other thing is like sort of thinking about sort of the track record that we've now got where we've worked together is ask for a reference. Ask for a reference of someone else is another way of doing it, isn't it? Because I know, for example, that if we had a company ring up today and we could put them in touch with a few people just to say, do you know what? This is what happened. They've done this, they've done that, and this is how much we're paid. And, at least then you've got some level of confidence that if you look at another reputable organisation that's already been worked with. I guess that doesn't work so much if you're giving someone a go who's sort of fairly new to it, but it's easy for us to sit back and go, do you know what? I'll speak to our old clients, they're absolutely delighted. But it sort of speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all about providing some sort of reassurance to the prospect. But.
Definitely. Okay, so what are I think you've sort of prepared a little bit there as well. So what are the limitations around the standards? What sort of challenges have you got around sort of how they are? He's scrolling like, I'm not sure I've prepped that.
No, I've made some notes to keep me on form and not go off on tangents. But
are we working our way through them anyway? Because I've not seen them.
Yeah,
are we actually working our way through them?
Down. They're in a bit of a different order, but I am.
Is it not the order you'd have gone in, mate? I'm sorry. Are you a bit OCD?
No. I am a little bit OCD. Yeah, definitely.
I think you need to be a little bit, don't you?
I think you do. Yeah. So no problems. I think one of the main problems is this the ISO speak and how the standard is set out. Mm-hmm. Okay, it is reading it for the first. I remember reading it for the first time and thinking, what on earth does this mean? This just means this doesn't mean anything. It's so generic, but when it is generic, and it's generic for a reason, because they want it to fit into every different business, and it can be fit, and it's open to interpretation. Okay, and a good consultant will do that, and it just needs to be. You need to use your imagination. Okay, and clause by clause, it makes, if you read it and just think about it, it makes perfect sense. All it's asking you to do is show, for example, define roles and responsibilities throughout, in your business. All right, well, what's that? What's a job description? Okay, get your job description or your health and safety responsibilities. We all know what they look like, So it's things like that. I think that's a major problem. Probably scares people off as well. And I think as well, bad consultants kind of use this as a, you don't know how to do it.
Bit of smoke and mirrors, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly that.
So I was going to ask you actually though, because I think you're right in that, like, bad consultants will use the sort of smoke and mirrors, but on the other hand, like, I was reflecting on, because I've just put a proposal in actually to a client who I think is recruiting. They're recruiting someone into like a compliance quality type role into their business, and the issue they've had is they're wanting to go for the standards, the 9001, 14001, 45001, and they think that it's going to be more cost effective to have someone full time do them, but potentially not someone who's already had the experience of doing them. And I've tried to argue a case for, do you know what? It might seem a bit more expensive up front to get a consultant to do it, but actually you'll get something much more meaningful, and that person can help support the person that you bring in to help manage it moving forward.
The best way to describe this, right? Okay, when you get a new kitchen in your house, right, and you spend all that money on getting a nice new kitchen from Magnet or wherever, okay, do you fit it yourself? You don't fit it yourself.
I fucking don't.
You get the
cooker won't fucking work, mate.
You get the right person to fit your kitchen, and then you maintain it by, you might want to paint the walls after, and you might want to, change the handles at some point. Yeah. And put your stuff in your cupboard how you want, but that's you don't employ someone to then put in an ISO standard that has never done it before. You're going to potentially spend time, their time and money, and you're paying for them to learn along the way on how to do it. Potentially, this is going to cost 3 out of 5 days a week for the next 12 months.
Yeah. And then my other challenge with it is that, and this is particularly for the client that I've put the proposal into, they leave before it's even happened, and then you're back to absolute square one, because no one that can make rhyme nor reason from what they've actually done in the 6 or 8, 9 months that they've been working on it.
Yeah, exactly that. And if a company is going to take on someone for that role, then specify it in the job advertisement. Okay, we need, this is what we want to do over the next 12 months. We need someone that's, competent at doing that. They're experienced, but obviously that's going to, you're not looking at your 28 grand a year health and safety advisor. You're looking at a 50 grand a year HSEQ senior manager. Yeah. This and it isn't just going to be him doing it. It's going to, it's going to be him plus whoever he needs help with. And obviously, if it's free standards, then there's going to be a lot more time than just implementing of one.
Absolutely. Or looking at a consultant who can then bring in people within your team to help support you.
Exactly that. Yeah. And a consultant is going to bring the expertise. They're going to bring the best way of doing it. Okay, and that's just going to save so much time. And
it isn't like one of the things that I've picked up on that we've been able to sort of help reduce the cost with clients is that around things like, if you don't know, then you've then got the audit providers, the auditors who can have the wool over your eyes a little bit. There's a little bit of protection there when you've got a consultant who knows what they're doing. We've had some horror stories, haven't we? With audit providers literally charging £1,100 a day and only turning up for 2 hours a day and wanting 14 days to bloody do work.
Yeah, exactly that. Or they want
it can be
8 or 9 days for an audit, and then if you go with an experienced consultant, he's going to know if he's
if the audit is
worth his weight in gold, then he'll know this shouldn't be an 8 or 9 day audit. This should be a 4 day audit at the most. Yeah. Okay, and then we can look at other certification bodies. Obviously, that's going to have a huge cost saving there. So
I was going to say, I think that's a lot of the thing that people aren't aware of when they go in. They sort of find a consultancy, to help them, but they don't really realise what's involved with the audit end of it. And once you're with an audit body, you're then looking at ongoing each year, you're sort of in for a penny, in for a pound. If they're, 9 days on the first audit and then they want, the maintenance audits to be 3 or 4 days, you're in when actually it could be half that potentially.
Exactly that, yeah. And over the course of your sort of 3-year cycle, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of
if you're
dough,
looking at £1,100 a day, and you've been sort of quoted 8-day initial audit, then a 4-day audit, 2 more times. Okay, that's a lot of money.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly when it could be half that,
Yeah, exactly that. And if you're going to be saving half that money, well then you've paid for your consultant already.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's certainly one of those things. And okay, nice. What's on your list that I've forgotten to ask, mate? What have I forgotten to ask?
All right, let's have a quick look.
I reckon we've done a pretty good job.
I think we've really covered it. One of the other problems I see is, which we touched on right at the start, was the consultant not explaining the whole process of maintenance. Okay, and what support the consultant can provide. Like that, you're expected to internally audit, but as a small business, you don't have an internal auditor. Present. You don't know how to internally.
What is an internal audit? What even is it, and what do you need to do? Yeah,
exactly that. You don't even know. So you're going to have to at least, you're probably going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 internal audit days from your consultant, potentially annually, and need a bit of sort of hand holding throughout the sort of certification cycle. Another one I want to just touch on is certification bodies, and the sort of argument for UCAS registered and non-UCAS.
Yeah, so that's interesting you mentioned that, because it was a requirement from the DVSA that we had to have a UCAS registered. And this isn't UCAS, so those of you that have got university age students or young people doing university, UCAS with a C is different to UCAS with a K when it comes to ISO, yeah?
Yeah, exactly that. And I think there are, I'm not saying that UCAS is the be all and end all. Okay, there are some rubbish certification bodies out there that are UCAS accredited, but if you're not going with UCAS, then they're the company that isn't UCAS accredited are lying to you, saying that you're going to be certified ISO 9001. You're not. You're going to be, and they use, I'm not going to even mention the name of the company, but I know for a fact that one of the directors is a lawyer, and they spin, they've worded their website really well to convince you that you're going to be certified to ISO, and you're actually not. You're not going to be certified to it. You're going to be, accredited or certified to, in their own way. I can't remember how they spin it, but you're not certified to ISO.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. And when you look at like you're saying with the reason you got it for the DVSA, and you're looking at these sort of government tenders and stuff like that, they'll generally specify UCAS. Okay, but these smaller tenders, they will just say ISO 9001. Okay. And they tend to not check if, they're not going to check this the certification. 9001 is 9001, but, if you want to be going for good tenders and stuff like that, then you're going to have to do UCAS, because, they're not, the quality of auditing is just horrendous. Like I've taken on jobs to internally audit a company that has been accredited to ISO 9001 through one of these non-UCAS companies, and I'm just, there's non-conformances everywhere. Everything's rubbish, and I don't know how they've not checked, and it creates a bit of a sort of situation between myself and the business owner, because he's been strung along for years thinking that it's suitable, and it's absolutely not suitable. It doesn't meet the standard at all.
You bad man, going in and kicking over his milk pot.
I know, exactly that. But yeah, it is a bit Wild West out there with certification bodies.
It's surprising, isn't it? But from a professional accreditation system, but there is. I guess it's one of those. There's some people that just see it as a license to go and print money.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
issue,
that. And you know, that's the same in any industry. Any industry, you've got your cowboy builders, you've got your Wild West certification bodies.
Yeah.
You know, you've got any industry's got them. And you know, we all know horror stories of you know, people doing a really bad job.
Definitely. So forewarned is forearmed when it comes to ISO standards.
Yeah. So you know, make sure you reach out to a good consultant.
Nice.
Like
Do you know
us.
any? Yeah, no, love it, mate. That's been fantastic. It's been really insightful actually, and I've learnt a few things. So, Dan, just for the benefit of the listeners, mate, can you just sort of say, like, if people want to know more, obviously they can get in touch through the podcast, but how do they get in touch with you direct? What's your LinkedIn, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So my LinkedIn is.
Are you Daniel or Dan?
It's Daniel.
Oh,
yeah,
Daniel.
It's Daniel. No, it's Dan. No, actually, it's Dan Griffiths on LinkedIn.
Is it?
But my handle is Daniel.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, original. I thought it was, you know, it sounded cooler, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. So it's Daniel-Griffiths-Principal Compliance, I think.
Nice.
And my email address is d.griffiths@principalcompliance.co.uk. So, yeah, get in touch with me or get in touch with Pete.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Spot on. Appreciate you taking the time out to
Mate,
come on the
it's been a
podcast,
pleasure.
mate.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Really enjoyed it, and it's your first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't he do a professional job, guys? I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please do share it and like it and comment and join the conversation. Are you interested in ISO standards? Give me a shout. Dan and I'd love to be able to help you out, and yeah, please do share it freely with people and join the conversation. And you know, like I say, if you know someone who's interested, then please do share it with them. Otherwise, tune in for the next one, and we'll speak to you soon. Cheers, Dan, for coming. Thank you, mate.
I really hope you loved today's episode, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe and listen out for future episodes too. Please do share it across your social media channels. We hope to reach more and help more people. If you want to find out more about me, my name's Pete Rushmer. You'll find me across any social media channel and my business, Flagship Partners, and we're your partners in success across your business. Thank you. See you again soon.